Hi, welcome to Momentum for Life TV. I'm Gus Rickard.
I'm Leila Lutz.
And today I'm going to take you through a series of workouts. They're going to be on kettlebells for women. Today we're going to go over the basics, so we're just going to look at the squat, the swing, the clean and an overhead press. And then over the next few weeks we're going to integrate those movements and some other movements into workouts. So the first movement we're going to do is we're just going to look at the squat without a kettlebell. So all I want you to do, Leila, is just stand with your feet about shoulder width. You're going to have your toes angled out slightly. You can just bring your arms out in front like that for balance, and you're just going to sink down just to the point where your back starts to round out. So go as deep as you can before you round out. Perfect. Good. So just cut it a little bit shorter just to there. Good. Just keep your belly button drawn in throughout. So this is a basic squat. This is a movement that's used in a lot of other kettlebell movements, so it's important that you can do kind of 15 or 20 bodyweight squats with perfect form like this before you try any of the other squatting movements with the kettlebell. You always want to stop with a squat just at the point before your back rounds out, and you're just letting your knees move over your toes, keeping your torso as upright as you can. That's nice, Leila, awesome. The next movement we're going to go over is just the swing. So with a kettlebell swing, we're loading now, we're using the weight, so it's important to keep tension through your trunk. You don't want to see any kind of spinal movement with kettlebells. You want to be able to really stabilize your spine. So I'm just going to get Leila to pick up the weight, keep a really tight trunk at the front there, so you're bracing your abs, keeping your chin tucked in. We're just going to look at the swing from here. As you come up, you're going to pull your quads up, pull your knees up, and lock your hips out as you keep that braced, and you're just going to let the kettlebell kind of bounce. You don't want to use any upper body movement, any upper body strength, just use your legs. Good. So lean into it a little bit more, yeah, and just keep your knees back behind your toes. So this is more of a bend pattern than a squat now, where we're really utilising the glutes and the hamstrings, that posterior fascial chain. Good, Leila, good. That's it. Awesome. Notice Leila's exhaling as she's coming up, she locks her hips out, exhaling through pierced lips, that's cool, you can have a rest. So she's creating pressure through her trunk and not letting all that air go, which would release the pressure. The next movement we're going to do is a clean. So I just want to introduce the rack position. The rack is just held here at your chest. You want the load of the kettlebell going into the outside heel of your palm, and you're just keeping a nice straight line from the pinky to your elbow there. Once you've got that line, you can grip it. This is the position that you're going to do all overhead pressing from, and it's the position that you finish the clean. So if you just pick that up, Leila, we'll just have a look at your rack position first. Yep. Yeah, so you see she's got a nice straight wrist there, and the load from the kettlebell is just going into that outside heel. So the next thing she's going to do is just come back down to the ground, bring your feet a little bit wider. So this is going to be the same position as we started in the swing, with your hips dropped back, keeping your knees behind your toes. So the difference with a squat and a bend, a squat, your knees come over your toes like that and you're quite upright. It's more knee and less hip movement, whereas a bend pattern here, you're moving through your hips and you're using your hips a lot more. So with the clean, as with the swing, you're going to be bending from the hips. You're going to drive the same way you used your hips in the swing, where you're pulling your knees up, locking your hips out, keeping that tension through your core, and you're just going to finish up in the rack position on your chest there. You want to just keep the kettlebell really nice and close to your centre of gravity the whole time. Good. So hold it there, I just want you to bring your hips up a little bit. Maybe turn side on so the camera can see that position. Yeah, so you can see she's leaning into it more, really getting the glutes and hamstrings in. She's keeping that lumbar extension there, so now you can drive with your hips and just pull it up to the rack. Perfect. So just give me 2 more there. Good. And do a couple more on the other side, still keeping that tension through your trunk. So you're bracing your abs a little bit. That's good, Leila. hips for the movement. Lock your knees out, lock your hips out, that's it. Good. Okay, awesome. You can have a rest. So next we're going to do the overhead press. So this movement starts at the rack there. So you've got the nice tight grip on the kettlebell. A military press is just done from a tight position, so you're keeping your hips locked out, keeping your knees locked out, keeping your trunk braced and firm, and keeping your first rib elevated. And from there you're just pressing straight overhead. We want to have a real locked out elbow and a shrugged shoulder at the top, so you're getting that full movement of your scapula, your shoulder blade, as you lift overhead. That's really important with overhead lifting. Just a note on overhead lifting, there is a thoracic arm raise test that we always do before we'll give anybody overhead lifting. So Lila, just want to bring your arms up in front and overhead, and you can see she's getting extension there. So she's okay to lift overhead because any force that's, that she's holding in her hand is going to move straight down into her scapula, and her shoulder girdle is going to take it. If she was locked up through here, so keep that and then go. Okay, so you can see she's not getting movement through her thoracic spine there, and any load that she's got in her arm is just going to be damaging the ligamentous system in the shoulder. So in order to get that support, she needs to have extension. If somebody doesn't pass that test, I usually get them just lying on a foam roller here for kind of 3 to 5 minutes a day for a couple of weeks, and just seeing if they can pass that test before we go overhead. So do you want to do that later? Just go do the military press. So keep really tight through your abs. Hips are locked out, knees are locked out. Good. Just making sure that she's really shrugging overhead. Good. Starting from that rack, keeping the wrist nice and straight there. That's good. You can then start to add a little bit of a dip and just do a push press where you're just slightly driving with your hips to get it overhead. Make sure you're keeping braced through your abs. Make sure you bring it down to the rack, let it rest on your chest before you press again. That just gives you a little bit of leg drive. It means it's a little bit easier at the beginning of the movement. Thanks, Lila. Good. So have a look at these movements, have a try of them, and then tune in next week for our first Kettlebell for Women workout. Thanks.